Hey guys, we're back at the shipyards, North Vancouver, having a good time. Reckless Shipyards is just over there, and they're letting us look at the ST5 ABS. Very cool. ABS stands for Anti-Lock Braking System, and you can see that visually over here. We've got this like inner disc and then some extra tubing. A lot of it is actually inside the frame, which Stromer does a really good job at. You can see this custom stem here that hides all the cables and stuff. Really, really clean. Some of the other companies that offer anti-lock braking, I can really only think of one. It's Bosch. They have an ABS thing. They have like a big, it's kind of a big box that's external. I haven't tested that one. It's an interesting concept. And on this bike, it's only the left brake, front wheel. The rear wheel, you could still lock it up if you wanted to, but a lot of times, you know, a lot of your braking happens with the front wheel because your weight is shifting forward, and so you're just getting extra pressure on that. And if you're on a slippery wooden dock, for example, and the wheel locks up, you could slide out to the side. It's happened to me before, actually, and you know, you just get less traction with the rear. You can even kind of, you know, flip the bike forward. This is a speed pedelec, 45 kilometers per hour, 28 miles per hour. That's sort of what Stromer is known for. These are like the race cars of electric bikes, and they are priced as such. So the original ST5, it's like $9,999, quite a bit. Well, this one is $10,500. It's just a lot of money to pay, but you are getting a 10-year warranty on the frame, 2-year comprehensive on the electronics, you're getting an alarm system, you're getting 3 sizes to choose from, only one color, and it's sort of similar to the original ST5, but it's sort of this glossy metallic gray compared to a little bit more of a matte finish. So the multiple sizes is really nice. One of the trade-offs, however, is that because the stem is joined with the handlebar, and because it's so clean with the integrated cables and stuff, you can't like get you know, like a riser for this, or a steeper stem, or a shorter stem, or a longer handlebar, a riser bar. There's so many options you just can't do. It is interesting that there's like a carbon fiber core to that center bar piece. So, you know, they're doing what they can. I love that we've got these Ergon locking GS1 grips, so they're the sport version. We've got these custom co-branded Pirelli tires. These things are great, 27.5 by 2.4, so they are a little bit wider, 5 millimeters of thick rubber that's kind of puncture resistant. They don't have reflective sidewall stripes, but the lights on this bike are super, super bright. We got the Supernova M99 Pro with like kind of a running light up here and a USB charging port built right in. I mean, it's just super fancy the way this is set up. There's also a bright mode on that headlight, and in the rear, we've got 5 red LEDs that do protrude a little bit. You can see it from multiple angles, and then white down below for if you have that license plate if you're in Europe. So safety-wise, between these tubular aluminum alloy fenders that are very quiet and very solid, and the lights, by the way, this has brake light activation, so it goes bright back here, the anti-lock braking, the sort of wider, you know, better contact patch, high-speed rated Pirelli tires. This bike's high performance, and it's just a ton of fun. So I'm going to go around the bike and hit some of the other specs. While we're kind of on the topic of speed and comfort, this is a rigid aluminum alloy fork with boost hub spacing, by the way, 110 millimeters versus 115 millimeter through axle with a 10 millimeter hex like bolt on the end. Same thing back here. They used to use like a star pattern custom bolt. I'm glad they've just gone with standard 10 millimeter right now, so it's maybe a little bit easier to figure out and repair yourself. But if you do want to get some more comfort, you can take this 31.6 millimeter rigid aluminum alloy seat post and swap it out for a suspension seat post like we see over here. Really fancy one. This is the Connect suspension post with some adjustability. And then we've got a WREN suspension fork inverted, so this is the stanchion at the bottom versus up high, kind of keeping the mass and stiffness up high. Really beautiful. There's a little bit of adjustability on this thing. Got the boost hub spacing in the through axle as well. And look at the fender attachment. So that same sturdy, wide, tubular aluminum alloy fender, it's mounted to the lowers here, and it stays with the tire. So it's not like the tire's getting more or less clearance and then water's going everywhere. This is just awesome, and it is an optional upgrade for the ST5 or ST5 ABS. Again, tapered steer tube, 1.125 to 1.5 inches, and that's sort of the mountain bike standard. Really neat to see a blend of hardware on this bike. Coming back to the saddle itself, this is Ergon, Stromer co-branded, of course. For me, this saddle works pretty well. It feels very, very comfortable. And then with the tires, you can lower the tire pressure and get yourself just really dialed in. Love the pedals they've gone with. I did not see branding, but they're aluminum alloy. They're a little bit wider, and they got these diamond fixed pins, 170 millimeter crank arms with a hollow spindle right there. So that's going to be a little bit lighter, but still stiff because of the sort of the diameter on this. 52 tooth steel chainring, no guide, but this is a narrow wide chainring. So the teeth lock really well with the chain. It's going to keep it from bouncing off track and dropping. We've got an excellent derailleur back here, XTR, definitely higher end. A lot of times with the cheaper e-bikes, you know, you're seeing Shimano tourney or something like that. Well, this one, it's electronically shifting, and it has a clutch system in here, so you can put that in the down position, and it's a little bit looser. Maybe it makes it easier to do some wheel servicing and stuff. And then when you're ready to ride at high speed, you just kind of keep it in that locked position, and it's just going to keep the chain from bouncing around. I did not see a slap guard here, and it gave me pause because, you know, it's like, well, the chain could still maybe touch this. We don't want to mar up the paint, so you could use a piece of clear box tape or something. Another little upgrade they've done, in addition to bottle cage bosses and stuff here, is they've got these really, really smooth weld points all around the bike. And that's something that is new for this particular model. If we look over here at the ST3, we can see the more traditional kind of rounded or bulbous weld points, which to me, this is still a really beautiful bike. But, you know, this is cream of the crop, top of the line right here. So coming back to the drivetrain, it's 11 speeds, 11 to 42 tooth. We got the derailleur that's really nice electronic shifting, so it's really precise and very quick, and it doesn't change as much or bed in the way that mechanical shifting would do. There is the aspect of charging the batteries and replacing those up here. We've actually got a little button and then a little battery port right there. So keep that in mind. You're gonna want to keep that as an extra sort of to-do over time with the bike, but the experience is excellent. And then having 11 speeds instead of just 10, we have smaller steps between each sprocket, and so you just have more pedal cadence options. The shifter mechanism is different than I'm used to seeing. Shimano has the Di2, some of them are like triggers. These are more buttons. Reminds me of their other electric bike interfaces that you'd use to adjust display settings. So to me, that was interesting. I want to call out these rims, very nice DT Swiss. We've got this eyelet in place, so the rims won't crack as easily, and adjustments can be done just to really keep them in true high performance stuff. Black spokes, black rims, more co-branding here, says Stromer, appreciate that. A big black gearless direct drive hub motor, and that's really the star of the show. So you can see here, Sino Sport by Stromer. I'm guessing this is probably 10.5 pounds, just the motor. By the way, the battery is like 10.5 pounds. The total weight on this bike, 72 pounds. It's actually a little heavier than when I rode the original ST5. So maybe that comes back to the analog braking, or maybe I reviewed that bike with a slightly different battery pack. But this motor, you know, it's, first of all, the motor controller, it's measuring torque, and there's a little plate on the inside over there, kind of a torque or strain sensor. So as you're pedaling, it's dynamically responding to how hard you push. It's not a cadence sensor where it's just on or off based on whether you're pedaling or not. So you get that. And then there's like an accelerometer and inclinometer as well. So it's very fancy. And I think the bike is pulling some of that data for analog braking as well. So we're really starting to get into car territory. And this thing being gearless, there isn't like friction happening, aren't gears rubbing on each other. There's just magnets repelling. So you get a really smooth, quiet, and I think very durable experience. There's just a little bit of additional weight. One of the other cool things you do get with these direct drive motors is that as you stop pedaling or you're just coasting, there's a little bit of magnetic like repelling going on, and it can kind of recoup a little bit of energy. So it's sort of like regenerative braking. That's kind of neat. You know, in my experience, you're not getting a ton of energy back. It's just one of the benefits of this type of motor, and it's neat to see that's in place, especially with a high capacity battery. If you use a lot to climb a hill and then you're going down for a long ways, you can recoup a little bit of that energy. And look right here, you can see this like knurled interface, kind of like teeth connecting to each other. It's almost like a torque system. So a lot of times with hub motors, you'll see like a torque arm connected to the frame. We have the through axle, the really big bolt, sturdy hardware, and then that's the interface to keep the motor kind of pushing against the frame to accelerate you, or pulling against the frame as you're sort of regenerating and, you know, kind of slowing down with the motor. One of the really cool features that it offers, in addition to just riding, is the theft prevention. If someone tries to steal this bike and you lock it up, well, the horn will go off. The motor will actively, like, you know, make it harder to drag this bike away, and then you'll be able to see it on GPS. And even if the battery runs all the way down, the GPS system still works. So Tony was telling me about a customer who got one of these bikes. You know, he woke up and it was like, oh, the bike's gone, what's going on? And Tony was able to look on his system, because they'd registered it together, say, okay, the bike is cold, the battery is at 0, and it's somewhere over here, and they were able to find it. And so the person who had taken it just kind of abandoned it and hid it in the bushes or something, and they were actually able to wait and kind of catch the person who stole it and recover the bike because of that theft prevention system. So I've heard this from a number of shops. It's one of the things that really sets Stromer apart. And then they have like a 4G like GPS and mobile chip in here, so the bike itself can do updates, and you can lock it remotely. It's not like a lot of other bikes where you need Bluetooth and you need to be within a certain proximity. And I think that's included lifetime with the bike. So very cool all around. I feel like they've done a great job. Let me see if I can hit any of the other things. The rear rack, very sleek and beautiful. Rack time, kind of standard gauge, so you could do panniers. No bungee loops, a little bit narrow, so in terms of trunk bags or child seats, you might have limited options, and a little bit lower on the weight rating, 22.5 kilograms versus like 25 on most of the other bikes I see. But still, very nice, and it connects directly with the fender, and it probably gives the fender some extra strength too. I want to point out that the rear light, while it does protrude and you can kind of see it from different angles, the fender's actually longer than the light, so if you bump into something, it feels like the light's going to be protected. And down here on the chainring, we've got an aluminum alloy guard, so keeps your pants from touching the chain or getting greasy, or if you're wearing some other clothing. It's nice that way, but also it's like a bash guard if you collide with a curb or something like that. This plastic piece down here, I think this probably protects some of the internals, and the battery is in here, but it also has that horn, which is very nice and quite loud. We can show that in a bit. Nice pedals, aluminum alloy, extra wide, diamond pins, you know, great, good stuff there. I don't really use like locking pedals or something with e-bikes. This is actually, I wouldn't change these. These are great. The kickstand, it's a bit of a mixed bag. They probably put it at the center of the bike because it is such a heavy bike. The battery's right there. You know, a lot of times I prefer ones back here because then I can pedal the bike backwards without getting pedal lock, right? And when you walk the bike backwards, you can end up with pedal lock too. So a little bit of a trade-off, but it does a good job. It's highly rated, and it stows nicely. It's clean and everything. From this angle, you can see the 203 millimeter rear brake rotor, same as the front, so really big, great cooling, great mechanical advantage. This one just has the fancy ABS, that extra little disc and the extra cables and stuff coming off of it. We do have a quick disconnect for the motor power cable back here, so if you do have to do some flat changes and stuff, but with those extra thick tires, shouldn't be too much of a problem, shouldn't be an issue. I love that they've got the charging port right up here where I can reach it. I don't have to bend way down or have that next to the crank arms, and there's no key for this bike. It's all electronic, so you use your app to sort of lock or unlock the bike, and then there's a power button under here, kind of hidden, and it wakes up the display, and then we can eject the battery from here. And this is pressure sensitive, so if you touch it, even if you have gloves on, it should still work. It activates this button over here. Okay, it slides out. 983 watt hours on this, 48 volts, 20.5 amp hours. Enormous. So this thing actually gets extremely good range. Of course, it depends. If you're riding around in like high speed all the time, you're not going to get as far, but there is a nice menu as well that gives you a range estimate. So I'm gonna maybe, yeah, you can help me put that back in. Just locks right into place. Nice rubber seal, paint matched. Everything is beautiful. By the way, I have some different color batteries that are different capacities. So this is like the super high end, high range. So we're back at the shop here, and we got the charger. It's a fairly large one, but it goes pretty quick. 4.5 amps. Traditional chargers usually maybe a couple amps. Some of the better ones are 4, so 4.5 is great. It does weigh a little bit more, about 2.7 pounds on that. And then we got the long wires, but you can unplug the wall side, makes it a little bit more compact. The display can take some time to sort of boot up the first time, but once it's been woken up, it seems like it powers back on very quickly, which is really convenient. If we go press this button again, it brings us back to the main menu. You can see ABS, lights are engaged, and it's touch sensitive here, so current speed and then battery capacity. With an infographic, we could have battery percentage readout, but I've got it set up for range right now. So it says 43 kilometers in the S, sort of the super sporty level of assist. As I press the minus or plus, we're gonna change levels. So we go down to 3, 48, 2, 60 kilometers, and 1, 156 kilometer range with our not quite full battery, or then down to 0. And it's like, okay, you know, we're kind of on coasting and, you know, pedaling mode where we might get a little bit of recoup. And that's pretty neat. Let's see, if I hold the minus button, we actually get the recoup menu, so you can dial up how much energy the bike is recouping. And when you turn the bike into like locked theft prevention mode, not only is the horn and stuff going off, but this is like maxed out. So again, that battery is kind of being charged, and the motor is trying to slow itself down. It's making it as hard as possible to ride the bike. Very cool. So don't forget about that little secret there. And then let's see if we can go back out. Maybe hold the minus button again, and we're back to the regular display. So 1, 2, 3. If we touch this, we get the clock, trip speed, trip distance, trip time, and then it circles back around. That's kind of a quick walkthrough of the menus. You can even see the 4G. There's a little like a little bars. We got 3 out of 5 bars right now, guys. That's cool. And then if I press the button on the bottom, it gives us the menu. So we can lock the bike, adjust the sensors, do walk mode, which is great. Again, heavy bike. There's the eject, and here's the menu. So many items in this menu between the bike, Bluetooth, settings, systems. Setting is kind of cool. So we could go down here and change the units from kilometers per hour to miles per hour. Battery, that's the readout. We can go for range or percentage on the display. Very nice. Background, so right now it's on like bright white background, but you could change this to night mode, which I think is very cool, just so you don't blind yourself. Although the way that this is positioned, it's not like right here. That's actually removable, and you can mount your phone here and use the app, which is so cool. But you know, the bike display is low. There's a little bit of looking to see it. Probably want to keep your eyes on the road when you're riding high speed, but doing dark mode is another way to kind of reduce distraction. So again, really rich, really deep, and I think that might be like a light sensor, so the adjustment might automatically adjust. And then there's the off button. There you can turn the whole bike off. Okay, so we got the smartphone app connected. I'm hiding Tony's email address here, but got a little bit of information about him. And we go to some of these other menus, we can see the ride stats from recent rides. So total today, days, weeks, months, that's kind of cool. And then right here, we've got some adjustments, so we can adjust the pedal sensor, brake sensor, speed, torque, agility, lots of cool stuff. And that's what's really cool. So you can actually dial in the motor. And then this is the main screen. You can see a picture of the bike, the time, lock the bike from here. And you don't even have to be physically near the bike. Since this has a cell phone chip and this also has the cell phone chip, you can do it remotely, which is so cool. And that's part of the whole theft prevention and recovery. So battery percentage, duration. If you tap duration, it changes to trip distance and speed. So it's just like the display, kind of cycles through some different readouts. We've got temperature, motor temperature, and then our location. Here we are in kind of Lonsdale area in North Vancouver. So just really neat. So we're getting ready to do some riding, and Tony's on the ST3. It's the comfort version, so kind of that mid-step frame. I'm on the ST5 Pedelec brake. I'm just gonna hop on. I've been doing a lot of riding actually in that S level, and it's interesting, like the cadence with this bike, you don't really have to spin and shift gears nearly as much as you would on a mid-drive to hit that 45 kilometer per hour, 28 mile per hour speed. And you'll notice right now I'm not out of control. I'm basically feathering the pedal pressure. I'm not overdoing it. But then as you really start to put it down, I mean, it just kicks you right up into those high speeds. I mean, it's, you know, pretty amazing. Very, very smooth, very quiet, comfortable, and it is kind of an upright. I should probably have the saddle raised a little bit more, just given my inseam. Again, I'm on the medium size. I'm 5'9", about 140 pounds. There's Tony with the ST3 and those bright lights, same thing as this. I'm gonna pass you and look at that suspension fork here, Tony. Super, super comfortable. I was riding on that one earlier, and when you combine that suspension fork, that's the WREN inverted fork, with that suspension seat post, I mean, it's so comfortable. Let me get on your left side here, Tony. There we go. Just beautiful. I thought I was gonna pull away from him, but he's able to keep up because he's on that one. These are fun to ride because you can keep up with traffic and kind of commands more respect in that sense. And the tires really, they're fairly forgiving. Considering this is just completely rigid fork, rigid frame, you do get a decent amount of comfort. And I appreciate that, especially when you're riding longer distance, higher speeds. Maybe we can trade off and I can try that one. Perfect. Especially now that we're at the pothole section.
All right.
There you go, buddy. They actually feel really light and nimble, and then you get off, you're like, oh, yep, there's some heft, but when you're riding, the motor just takes you away. I'm a big fan of that Supernova headlight. That's one of the big upgrades. Okay, so hop on the ST3. Oh yeah, there it is. That's what I'm talking about. And Tony will take off on the ST5. He's in S mode. I gotta click up to S mode as well. Wow, what a great race strip here. Beautiful. Wow. We're going really fast right now too. Beautiful, beautiful scenery. And that suspension, you know, that's something I'd be looking at pretty close if I was gonna get the ST5 or any of these bikes. You'd hear by the way, a little sand was maybe flicked up into the fenders there for Tony a second ago. I've noticed that too, occasionally, but the fenders themselves don't rattle. They're very, very sturdy. Let me go on the other side of you here. Can you do the brake? Yeah, there we go. I'm gonna get that headlight shot again. Do a brake test?
Okay, if I go faster.
It's interesting what you'll find while you're riding around on a bike. It's pretty cool. Shipyards here, and got a ski area up there.
Brake test?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, brake it. Oh yeah, and you'll notice
the front.
Yeah, the rear tire locked up a little bit, but the front did not. And that's really one of the big features.
And how do you keep the traction? I really feel I still got to control the bike, right?
Yeah. Gosh, it looks so nice. Yeah. Thanks, man. It's having a blast riding around with you. Okay, guys, we're looking at that 52-tooth narrow wide chainring down there. I'm in the highest level of assist, S, and I'm just gonna pedal along, do some shifting with the electronic shifting. You can listen for that motor. Again, highest level, so this is as loud as it gets. It's just so fast, really satisfying and quiet and smooth. Okay, I got the menu pulled up here. Just tap the button down here. I'm gonna try the move. So there we go. We just press the plus button and walk assist. Okay, very nice. Especially handy if you're trying to move this up a steep hill, because it is fairly heavy. Oh wow, you can even adjust like how fast walk assist goes. That is so cool. I've never seen that before. Huh. So the walk assist menu lets you go up or down on the walk speed, because sometimes these walk assists are way too fast. That is so cool. Just takes off. Of course, it's based on how hard you pedal. Do a brake test here. Oh my gosh, fantastic. I was really going for it, and I think I skidded a little bit on the rear wheel. No sliding on the front. I'm just gonna ride off a curb down here. My experience with these tires so far has been great, and the whole bike just feels, it's got inertia. So instead of vibrating and transferring the bad feeling from bumpy terrain into your body, it's like the frame soaks that up. And even going off the curb, like you feel the volume in the tires. You don't hear the fenders rattling or anything. It's very tight. Let's go ahead and just do that. Oh boy. just wants to go when you're in that high level assist. You could keep up with cars, you know. We're at 47 kilometers per hour right now. Just fantastic. And then braking, we got the Recoup going. Let's try to, if we go into this Recoup menu, go all the way down. I mean, this is, if someone was trying to steal the bike, and it really would be very difficult. Beautiful. Do another stop test here. Awesome. Tony, I just want to say thanks again for spending time with me. Building these bikes is expensive, and it takes a lot of, in some ways, courage to introduce new features and to offer it in 3 frame sizes and to provide the GPS stuff. I mean, you know, people, rightly so, it's like, well, that's so expensive, you could buy a car. But being able to charge with electricity, ride to work, you know, get some activity, some fitness, and have something that's, I think, safe, fun, healthy, to me that's really exciting. So I love to cover these bikes. And again, this is a brand new bike. It's part of Tony's fleet, you know, of new bikes. And so again, it's a privilege to look at this thing. I appreciate the folks at Stromer, and I love you guys as usual. I've done my best to measure this thing and provide all the stats at the website. I've got a comparison tool you can look back to back. I haven't covered every Stromer model, but I do intend to review more of them. And yeah, there's also a forum, so you can talk to people who've owned this and what has their experience been. Maybe read more of those stories about, you know, theft prevention, recovery, and stuff. Have fun out there, ride safe. We'll see you next time.